Teachers of Reddit, what's the worst thing you have heard a colleague say about a student? NSFW. There was a kid in my gym class who had a speech impediment, and when he wasn't around, the gym teacher would openly do offensive impressions of him in front of all of us students. I used to have two math teachers. Older men. And they would send various girls to and from each other's classes with important messages to give to the other teacher. Years later, I talked to one of the girls, and turns out they were sending hot girls dressed in something like a short skirt or revealing outfit for the other to check out, and the notes always had something gross and raunchy on it. I overheard two teachers at my school talk about a 16-year-old girl there, saying, "She's the kind of slut you hang around at parties. 'Cause you just know she's gonna drink too much and pass out somewhere. Then she can't say no." I went to the high school my mom taught at. Teachers were at my house all the time. They never held back anything. And so it is nearly impossible to distill it to a single thing that one of them said. But here are a few that stand out. "I ducking hate future valedictorian. But I'm not going to be the one who gives him an A or his hunt mom will throw a fit. It's not worth the hassle. That ducking kid has no sense of reality. Once his dad's money stops flowing, he's going to be in prison. I can't wait to visit him there." Regarding two attractive twin brothers a year behind me, which one is hotter? I'd duck them both at the same time. I would heal that little itch if I could get away with it. My mom teaches at my school. She told me some kid in her class is the dumbest methodica on the planet. That kid sells me Drew Gus. A student in 5th grade saw a psychologist to test him for learning difficulties. This was an average student of accepting, educated parents in a private school. The psychologist told the kid's parents that he would never go to college. WTF? How can you limit a 10-year-old's future like that? The parents were upset, but luckily ignored her. His current high school is a much better fit for him, and while he's not top of the class, there's no reason he shouldn't be able to pursue higher education if that's what he wants. I once saw a substitute stare at my classmate's bum and bite his lips. She was 13/14. That's pretty young to be a substitute teacher. I heard that some teacher at my school once literally told a student that he was a nasty, filthy little piece of shit, and that he should go back to the toilet which he was torn out of. That teacher was really angry, and the kid he insulted really was an ass. He got an official warning but got away unscratched. The kid was one that could handle things like it, so he took it lightly. It sure left an impression though. Not a teacher, but when I was in elementary school, my friend overheard my math teacher telling another teacher that talking to me was like talking to a shoe. I heard a lot of creepy comments about female students. Some were subtle and some less subtle. But the worst one was actually from a female teacher talking about a male student. Paraphrasing, "When he wears those tight jeans, I just want to give him a spank. You know? She used to buy him stuff all the time and pay him a lot of attention." People thought it was strange, but it was okay because she was also his aunt. Edit. People keep asking where. It was in the Midwest. No, that is not common here. My senior year of high school, I took a freshman class that was required to graduate. My teacher turned to me once when all of the freshmen were being loud and said, "This is why they don't let teachers have gums." This same teacher was arrested the next semester for taping a camera under the sink of one of the handicapped bathrooms. Another teacher was arrested that same semester for having taken pictures with hidden cameras under desks and an iPad which he would slide out from under his desk when students would go up to talk to him. They were stored on his school computer and discovered by a student. His reasoning for doing this was something along the lines of, "It started as an accident and then became a challenge to see how long I could do it." Director in theater department consistently talked about strangling some of the spoiled brats they had to deal with. I was on the same boat. Get a teacher drunk enough and you hear some shit. Both my parents were friends with a lot of teachers I had in my schools growing up. I would hear teachers talk about what kids to buy weed from, what kids would be failures, what kids would be dead in the next few years. And on one occasion I heard a teacher refer to a student as a stupid who will ruin her life before high school. She did get pregnant in 8th grade, but still that's a ducked up thing to say. I'll probably get downvoted to eternity for this, but I don't think it's bad for teachers to talk like that between themselves. Think about it. They see these people day in, day out. They see them on a level which is different to how their parents see them, and they know how they perform grade-wise in school. They see them in their social circles too, so they obviously have quite a good insight into their lives. Saying how much of a big dig a student is or how much one of them will duck up their lives is no worse, in my opinion, than passing comment about a neighbor or someone like that. Some comments can be harsh, but they are probably often fairly accurate. Our chemistry teacher was taking a class on balancing chemical reactions. There is this couple talking, giggling and disturbing the class. Our teacher looks at them and says, "You guys have nice chemistry going. Just don't turn these reactants into products." I'm middle school. One of the teachers said he wanted to hang a black student. He was kidding, and I don't think he meant it to sound racist, but it sure did. Edit. In Nice to Meet You High School and Jake. Worked at a Catholic school, overheard a teacher say, "I know we're against birth control, but that kid is a poster child for using condoms." Within 5 years that kid will probably kill himself in a car wreck a year later. He did. Oh man. The whole sophomore class my freshman year was like this. Just like 70 kids and 30 of them were just trash. They were awful, stupid, lazy, and they were all going to criminals. Within a 4-year span, 10 had died in various accidents, mostly related to alcohol. One notorious crash that held 3 of them I think actually caused those that survived to straighten their sheet up and improve their lives. Most of the people in here posting aren't teachers. I do teach, and let me tell you, my colleagues make fun of college students all the time. I have heard plenty of terrible things. Let me list some of my favorites. I honestly don't know how this person got into college because he can't read or write past a 4th grade level. There is a student who kept hitting on me, so I lost his final paper and said he never turned one in. Part of me wants to say F off to students coming into my office when they have stupid questions. I failed a student because one of his sentences in his research paper was too close to the opening paragraph of the reference paper he was citing. I am failing the majority of my students. He was laughing as he said it. My teacher told us that a couple years before we had her, she had purposely called a student a word that she did not know was inappropriate. She only told us that it was a 7-letter word that started with S. Naturally, I dropped everything, stopped paying attention, and started racking my brain for every naught word I knew until 5 minutes after the conversation had ended I screamed scrotum in the middle of algebra. Teacher did not confirm nor deny, which means she confirmed. Okay. So both of my parents are teachers. My dad an elementary school teacher and my mom a high school teacher. From both ends the things teachers will say about students astound me. I've heard teachers racially profiling kids under the age of 12 because the writing on the bathroom wall was too ghetto to be written by a white child. I've overheard high school teachers calling students sleuths and talking about how they shouldn't have to teach students that were just going to end up in fast food service. Edit. Grammar. My grandpa died literally the day before my final university exam, so I applied for special consideration immediately. One of my university's staff members, who apparently had some sort of chip on her shoulder, was deliberately delaying my application by continually misplacing my paperwork. After 2 months of jumping through this woman's hoops, all other applications were approved or declined within 1-2 weeks. I emailed directly to her boss to complain about her. Not long after that I received an email from the woman, who called me, and I quote, "A cute jumping, daddy loving trollop." Half an hour later I received 2 more emails. One from her and one from her boss, apologizing profusely. The boss then informed me that my special consideration was approved, and that the woman had been fired. Student here. My math teacher constantly makes jokes about kids in my class in regards to their race. If you're Asian, you will be told to stop studying Chinese characters if you are not paying attention. If you're Latino, he will ask questions about which community college you're going to. If you look European, like I do, he assumes you're an immigrant. I've been told multiple times to make sure to write your test in English, and when calling him out on that, be told something along the lines of, "In Poland your behavior would not be acceptable at all." All while keeping a stupid grin on his face. I wonder how he still has his job. Commented on a kid being cute. Old lady teacher responded with, "Yeah, I know, considering he's one of those half Negro things, WTF." My junior year, a teacher had a miscarriage. When she came back, she was a bit mad at the class for a bunch of assholes acting like douchebags and yelled quite a bit. A student got up and said something to the effect of, "Guess it's a good thing you had a miscarriage." She broke down and cried. One of the other teachers came and got her. For about 15 to 20 minutes there was total silence. Then the vice principal came in with a totally red face. Kid tried to say she deserved it and fought back when he made to grab him. The principal punched him in the face hard. Kid stopped fighting. Total silence for the rest of the hour. Vice principal never got in trouble. Parents actually approved of their kid being suspended. I honestly don't hear so many bad things. Even after 15 something years. Probably the sleazy comments about female students. Even this type thing is rarely actually uttered aloud. I taught English at a school in Tokyo. My colleague always complained about this one student of his. Usually calling her a major pain in the ass. One day I substituted for him. The first time I turned around to write on the board, I was kanchoed. I taught in Japan for a bit. I was kind of lucky because I got to start in the middle of the year. As a result of my mid-year application for the job, usually school starts in April, but I applied in July. Started in August. The reason I got to start in the middle of the year was the guy teaching at that school before me was fired for sexually harassing a student. This was at a middle school. That guy was in his late 20s and he was hitting on a 15-year-old girl. She was wearing a kimono at a festival and he asked her if she was wearing anything underneath it. He had a slight history of creepiness towards the girls. So this was the last straw. So now I'm working there and getting along great with the staff because I'm not a pedo. One day I'm getting a ride somewhere with the vice principal and we pass some high school kids on their bikes. He leaned over in the car and nudged my arm and gestured to some of the high school girls. He said, "Hey. HMM? High school girls." It was uncomfortable for the rest of the ride. I think he was just testing me to make sure I wasn't like the previous guy. But I'm not entirely sure. I might show my frustration at times. But I don't say degrading things. That said, the number one thing they say that is messed up is something along the lines of, "You kids will never go to college," and that's why you'll never amount to anything. One of my students even wrote an apology letter to my co-teacher because he lost it on her for basically nagging him in the middle of class. I left the classroom with him so that I could talk about what just happened. Apparently, as mentioned in his letter, she said in front of the other kids, "That's what happens when you're not raised properly." I once heard my dance teachers discussing a friend of mine's technique. But it eventually turned into vicious remarks about her weight. Saying she'd like they'd have to force her to do the exercises until she was throwing up from exhaustion to get her down to a tenth of the maximum weight she should be. She was 8 years old. Edit. People keep asking if she was overweight. No. She was not. But compared to the rest of our incredibly skinny class, she was larger. I went to military high school. My friend, a colossal dug-up, was dubbed by my algebra teacher the poster child for a 9mm retroactive abortion. My friend protested. So my teacher gave us an in-class assignment. Issued my buddy a 35-pound log. And made him run around the parade field with the log on his shoulders. They don't duck around in military school. In high school I had a teacher tell me in class a few times if I don't shut up he will take my testicles and smash them with a pin hammer. He was from Odessa, Texas and sounded exactly like Hank Hill. We all loved him. So it wasn't an issue. I had a substitute teacher in high school who was an old weird man. Two particular stories that pop into my mind are one of him calling a girl's name, asking her to lean out so he could see her, then saying there's a face for the memory banks. The other involved him discussing how he used to toughen up his sons and their football friends by holding their heads underwater until no bubbles came up. Double quote. Summer camp counselor here. One of sweetest kids we had a few years ago had a horrible lisp. And he was really puny. He had also broken his tailbone before camp and had to sit on a donut pillow. Let's call him Dwight. And we all sleep in the same cabins with the boys, ages 8-10 that year, on our team. My co-counselor has a horrible habit of talking in his sleep. He'd usually be rapping, singing, talking to his wife, and random harmless junk like that. He was famous for it. And the kids loved it. And one night he started talking and woke up me and the kids. First he started reciting sports reports and singing random songs. But then his unconscious turned to Dwight. He began to perfectly imitate Dwight's poor little stuttering voice. My name is Boo. Boo. B-U. Bud pad. Oops. I left my bud pad back at the fire. Ruppet. Come on Gluiths. I'd up. Dup. Don't sound like Daffy Duck. Pleb Gluiths. Leave me alone. He went on a few more lines like that. I looked down and Dwight was awake and mortified. And don't ask me how the rest of the summer went.